Good evening, Bahamas. Coming up tonight. Island-wide power outage. Why New Providence was plunged into darkness. Cabinet ministers denying rumors of layoffs within the public service. Plus, a woman in desperate need of heart surgery.
Our news is brought to you by Alive.
Welcome to Our News and thank you for joining us. I'm Kyle Joaquin. An island-wide outage left New Providence residents without electricity for hours this afternoon. It didn't sit well with angry consumers who say they hope it's not a sign of what's to come this summer. Jillian Gray reports.
Residents from east to west were left in the sweltering heat as Bahamas Power and Light experienced an island-wide blackout. Many of the residents we spoke with lamented the fact that the power company is still going through these challenges.
The fridge is off, so the little small things you have in the fridge, that's spoiling. Money is scarce now because jobs is closing down and opening on a certain time like that, so you know. They have to get their act together.
Because I have an electric stove, and that means I can't cook on time, and I have an electric pump. So that means I can't get no water and I can't cook.
The blackout occurred around 1 p.m. and while Bahamas Power and Light quickly put out a memo on its social media pages, the notice that the outage would last for 2 hours did not quell the concerns of residents. This Facebook user said her daughter was taking an AP calculus examination. They tried using cell phone data, but once power was restored, the phone automatically switched to Wi-Fi, which broke the link to the exam. She said hundreds of hours have been wasted preparing, not to mention the financial costs. Another user said, "I wish there were other electricity alternatives. Very pathetic." Henry Roll was on his porch with his fiancée trying to escape the heat. He said he's not sure how people will follow the curfew order if there is another hours-long power outage.
The Prime Minister, he telling you now, well, he have a curfew going on. And for you to survive in life, you have to go about keeping the curfew. But now cutting off the light, I don't know how we can do that.
By 4 p.m., BPL issued a 2-page list of the areas that were restored. However, this Facebook user commented that the power continued to dip, stating, "I'm convinced that you guys don't know what you are doing. This is the third time on and off my power has cut in an hour. When one of the appliances go bad, please tell me who I must speak to." With summer approaching, many residents fear a repeat of the horrible summer of 2019 when there were hours-long outages daily. Winston Hanna has lived in his home for 40 years and said he's experienced it all, suggesting the power company change everything from workers to generators.
We need new equipment or new vehicles. I think the equipment is really outdated. They started work on them now. I don't know how much work they did.
Nathaniel of H2 Only Corner Store said something must be done as their operation is losing money.
They're going to lose money. I can't have no money to make. If they don't want nothing hot to drink in this hot time, like really. And if they light off and all light off, ain't nothing cold to get.
Reporting for Our News, I'm Jillian Gray.
Following the Prime Minister's warning of difficult and painful decisions ahead, some have speculated what that may mean for civil servants. It's a question reporters put to cabinet ministers today. Jared Higgs has more.
59-year-old Hiram Major is a civil servant and Hurricane Dorian survivor.
I have a daughter. She is a diabetic.
It's just one of Major's many responsibilities. He worked for local government in Abaco for 20 years before the storm displaced him. Luckily, his maintenance job was reassigned to Nassau, but things are starting to become uncertain.
I've been waiting to shut it down.
During a gloomy national address on Sunday, Prime Minister Dr. Hubert Minnis announced that there would be difficult and painful decisions ahead. Some have speculated that those difficult decisions may involve cuts to public sector jobs like Major's. Deputy Prime Minister Peter Turnquest refused to stop and answer questions about those rumors before entering cabinet. However, Works Minister Desmond Bannister insisted that he knew nothing of them.
Unless I hear that from the Prime Minister, that's not within my contemplation. And people in my ministry are actively working Because, the Ministry of Works is absolutely critical in everything that's going on. They're actively working, and not only are they working to deal with the challenges we have, such as what happened in Spanish Wells, they are actively working to provide projects for stimulus. So when the country opens, we have stimulus packages ready and moving.
Tourism Minister Dionisio de Aguilar also denied reports of job cuts within his ministry. However, he acknowledged that if revenue isn't able to rebound, options would be limited.
The Minister of Finance has said that revenues are down 60-70%. So obviously some sort of adjustments are going to be necessary to either rebuild revenue, get our tourism industry back on track as quickly as possible, to get the revenue coming back in, because you can't run this type of deficit for too long before you either have to borrow or cut.
Job or not, Major still has responsibilities, like to his diabetic daughter, who requires dialysis 3 times a week. He also has a teenage daughter who is still in school. With uncertainty brewing, the optimistic Abaconian says if he loses his job, he has a plan.
I'm from Long Island, and I will go back into farming and fishing, where I used to before I get there.
With 25,000 out of work and unemployment expected to triple, it's simply unclear what the future is for members of the civil service. Reporting for Our News, I'm Jared Higgs.
In other news, 2 men were arraigned in the magistrate's court on murder charges today. Family members of the accused and the victim became very emotional as the men were escorted inside the court complex. Bethany McDermott reports.
Emotions ran high outside the magistrate's court today as 22-year-old Jonathan Brister of Blue Hill Road South in the navy blue Nautica t-shirt and 22-year-old Jonathan Brister of Garnet Circle, Elizabeth Estates in the black long-sleeve t-shirt were escorted into court to be arraigned on murder charges. The pair appeared before Deputy Chief Magistrate Andrew Forbes and was represented by attorney Jomo Campbell. It is alleged that on May 5th, while being concerned together, the pair intentionally and unlawfully caused the death of father of one, Jeffrey Fowler. Police tell us that Fowler was stabbed to death during an altercation with 2 other men on McQuay Street off Nassau Street. As the pair was escorted into court, their loved one screamed, "Hold your head up," and freedom. This while loved ones of the deceased cried, screaming, "Cowards." Now bail was denied and both men are remanded to the Bahamas Department of Corrections. They will return to court on July 30th, where they will be served with a voluntary bill of indictment. Reporting for Our News, I'm Bethany McDermott.
Well, 2 16-year-old boys also appeared before Deputy Chief Magistrate Andrew Forbes today in connection with a shooting incident which left a girl injured. The teen seen in the black jacket was charged with 1 count of causing grievous harm, 1 count of possession of an unlicensed firearm, and 1 count of possession of ammunition. It is alleged that on May 7th, he did harm a juvenile female. He allegedly had in his possession an unlicensed black 9mm Glock and 14 unfired rounds of ammunition. The second teen, seen in the red, blue, and white shirt, was charged with 1 count of possession of an unlicensed firearm and 1 count of possession of ammunition. Forbes informed the pair that the matter will be moved to the juvenile court, which convenes on Tuesday. Unless bail is granted by the Supreme Court, they are to be remanded at the Juvenile Center at the Bahamas Department of Corrections and the Simpson Penn Center for Boys, respectively. A man recently released from the quarantine facility housing Bahamians who were stranded abroad is sharing his experience. He said returning to the Bahamas was a tedious process. Jillian Gray reports.
What was supposed to be a 5-day trip for Rashard McCarty turned out to be 2 months away from his family. McCarty, who originally went to the United States to help his sister move to a new apartment, said the process for re-entering the Bahamas was tedious.
We had to drive like 3 hours down to Fort Lauderdale to be tested, then drive 3 hours back, so that was 6 hours total. And we got tested, and we actually weren't told our results. I think they sent them straight to the embassy. So once they said that we could go on the plane, we kind of just assumed we were negative because we assumed that no one positive was going to be on the plane. We all know how that turned out.
On Friday, 2 Bahamas Air flights brought back 183 people stuck abroad for weeks. McCarty was held at a quarantine facility up until Monday. He was only released on the condition that he and another family member who returned on the same flight would isolate in an empty apartment and not at home with other people. With no laundry service at the quarantine facility, McCarty said he's happy they were allowed to leave. However, he insisted it wasn't all bad and added they were provided with 3 meals per day and nurses checked in on them periodically. With such a tedious process to return home, he said he's not sure how a COVID-19 positive man was allowed on the plane.
They had to have the test results before we boarded the plane, basically. So it's just one of those things that just seemed to slip through the cracks. I don't know how someone who tested positive could get on that flight.
On Sunday, the Prime Minister announced that repatriations would be suspended. McCarthy said he feels for those who are still stuck abroad and hopes that when repatriations resume, that doesn't happen again.
This obviously was just for people that were stuck in Florida, mostly South Florida, actually. So it is sad that people who maybe, like students who may want to come home and whatnot, are now probably going to have to wait even longer.
Reporting for Our News, I'm Jillian Gray.
The opposition is hitting out at the Prime Minister's national address. At the PLP's online COVID-19 briefing last night, PLP leader Philip Davis said government needs to move from talk to action. Here again is Berthany McDermott.
Progressive Liberal Party leader Philip Davis is blasting Prime Minister Dr. Hubert Minnis's national address on Sunday, calling it a study in depression and hopelessness. On Sunday, Minnis said unemployment is expected to hit a staggering 30% in the near term. This as he stressed that gaming houses are not included among the businesses allowed to offer curbside and delivery services. That did not sit well with Davis.
How can they tell us on one day that businesses that can take proper health precautions, including curbside delivery, can open, and on the next day close an entire industry meeting those standards, sending more than 3,000 workers home? They need to move quickly to work with representatives of different industries. How can businesses plan in this atmosphere of confusion?
Meanwhile, PLP Deputy Leader Chester Cooper called Minnis's national address a Captain Obvious picture of the country's economic state of affairs. He called on government to extend assistance and benefits offered by the National Insurance Board and give a lump sum of $500 to tenants to assist with rent.
The government should also offer tenants who qualify up to $500 per month to pay their rent, as opposed to the fake rental assistance program they launched, which does not really assist anyone in this equation and particularly disadvantages landlords. This basic stipend will have money circulating in the economy and lead to steady revenues through the continued ability of landlords to pay taxes.
On Sunday, Minnis revealed that revenue for the month of April was down by 50%. Additionally, he said the economy is expected to shrink between 14 and 20%. Cooper said it didn't have to be this way, adding that Bahamians will be lucky if that is all the economy contracts by.
Family island economies except Bimini, Cat Key, and Grand Bahama could have been opened by the end of April. The real estate sector also remains closed. This sector is a major source of revenue for the government. They could have been finalizing contactless transactions this entire time.
Reporting for Our News, I'm Berthany McDermott.
Still to come, the tourism minister dismisses calls for his resignation, plus a family's plea for help. Stay tuned.
The Ministry of Education presents the Bahamas Learning Channel on Rev TV Channel 295, starting Wednesday, April 15th, where students across the entire Bahamas will have access to virtual learning for BJC and BGCSE taught daily by our teachers. Tune into the Bahamas Learning Channel, where education is in the click. And stay tuned for the Bahamas Learning Channel 296, launching soon.
Tourism Minister Dionisio de Aguilar shooting down calls for his resignation following the controversy that saw Minister of Health Dr. Dwayne Sands tender his resignation. Jared Higgs has more.
Minister, do you think that you should have resigned along with Dr. Sands?
No.
De Aguilar's blunt response comes just over a week after Minister of Health Dr. Dwayne Sands resigned after he accepted responsibility for the decision to allow 6 permanent residents to disembark an aircraft during a strict border closure.
Did you know that the plane that came in Did you notice that the plane came in and those passengers were allowed to disembark?
I think, honestly, enough has been said about this. I think it's been ventilated. I think the Prime Minister has spoken to it.
Sands' resignation came a day after the Prime Minister said that protocol was breached when 6 Americans, who are Bahamas residents, were permitted to land on New Providence and quarantine at home. The Americans brought with them 2,500 swabs for COVID-19 testing.
I think Dr. Sands has spoken to it. I don't think I did anything wrong, and I've moved on. I think we should all do the same.
Before Sands' resignation, a document claiming to be a statement from the former health minister circulated on social media. The document, which caused confusion, claimed Dr. Sands offered his resignation, but Dr. Minnis refused to accept it. Sands released a statement saying the letter was fake and offered his resignation 30 minutes later. Reporting for Our News, I'm Jared Higgs.
COVID-19 has left many people without enough money to meet their basic needs. It has also left one family without the money needed to pay for a wife and mother's life-saving heart surgery. Jasmine Brown has their desperate plea for help in this report.
She just won't live, and she didn't even know she needed a bypass surgery. My mother don't even know how she's going to get these funds.
That's Princess Allen describing just how badly her mother, 62-year-old Winifred Allen, needs life-saving heart surgery. The mother of 5 is fighting for her life after suffering 2 massive heart attacks in the span of a month. Allen has spent the last 2 weeks in ICU waiting to get a much-needed coronary artery bypass surgery after her condition persisted despite having surgery 2 weeks ago. But there is one problem. Her kids and husband, who are all employed in the hospitality industry, cannot afford the nearly $60,000 procedure. Her daughter, Anishka, wrote,
"The whole family is not employed at this time, and she had a prior surgery, which was last week, to remove blood clots out of the vessels. That surgery, the total cost of that surgery was $14,000. We, the family, was able to get those funds to have the procedure done.
While the family was able to provide the money needed for the first surgery, they say there is no way they can come up with the $57,160 needed for the bypass surgery that is scheduled for Monday.
We are here as a family to reach out to the public for assistance in having this procedure go forward, because I remember the last thing that my mom told me when I took her to the hospital when she survived the heart attack was, "I really want to live. I really need to live." And I just can't get those words out of my head.
Allen's son, Al Pacino Allen, says the family has set up a trust fund in their mom's name at Doctors Hospital.
And I know it's a difficult time now. You know, it's a very tough time. And I know it's a tough time for our family, and I know it's a tough time for many other families. Whosoever wishes to assist can go at Doctors Hospital, Winifred Allen. The account number is, I think, letter V, 1019775.
As the family reaches out to the public for help, her husband, Robert Allen, says they are also counting on their faith to take them through these tough times.
It's nothing too hard that God cannot do, but we still need the support of the public.
Reporting for Our News, I'm Jasmine Brown.
All right, thanks, Jasmine. Still to come, would Bimini residents be okay with a 2-week lockdown? Stay tuned.
The Ministry of Education presents the Bahamas Learning Channel on Rev TV Channel 295, starting Wednesday, April 15th, where students across the entire Bahamas will have access to virtual learning for BJC and BGCSE taught daily by our teachers. Tune into the Bahamas Learning Channel, where education is in the click. And stay tuned for the Bahamas Learning Channel 296, launching soon.
You're watching Our News. Welcome back. With 11 confirmed cases of coronavirus on that island, some Bimini residents say they would support a 2-week lockdown to stop the spread of the deadly virus. Georgia Bain has more.
With Bimini considered a COVID-19 hotspot, some residents say they would support a 2-week lockdown, an idea that health officials revealed they were seriously considering. Pastor of Bible Teachers International Church in Alistown, Bimini, Pastor Therese Roll, says the word coronavirus stirs up negative emotions among residents.
Just to hear that word COVID, I think that sends a whole spiral spin in our community. And so that word can be offensive or could be destructive, could be argumentative. And so we ought to be very careful in using that particular word, even concerning it to death.
There were initial reports on Monday that health officials were investigating a possible COVID-19 related death on Bimini. However, a senior health official told our News Today the patient had not been previously diagnosed with the virus. Bimini Member of Parliament Bakisha Parker Edgecombe told our News that early reports indicate that the deceased may have suffered a major heart attack.
At this point in time, the residents remain vigilant in staying safe and adhering to the protocols that have been put in place by the relevant authorities. Yes, we would have had a death on the island, and that community is in mourning at this time because she was a pretty young person, 26-year-old, whom the community loved. There are speculations with regard as to what could have possibly led to her death. Early reports indicating that it could have been a massive heart attack.
The country's first COVID-19 related death was a prominent member of the Bimini community. That island has since reported 11 confirmed cases. Pastor Rose said she would definitely support a 2-week lockdown because she feels some residents aren't taking the pandemic as seriously as they were before.
When the bar became open and then they had the number houses open, I mean, I saw everybody all over the place, not wearing masks, not social distancing. And so I feel like it's not taken as serious as it should be.
Nathan Ellis said he would also support the lockdown and pointed out that on a small island such as Bimini, it's hard to keep your distance.
Well, you know, all them kind of things, I mean, do something like that is hard, but if that's best for the island, then I'm all for it. But you know, the community is so close-knit that, hey, you know, you try to get with people sometimes and you can't.
Parker Edgecombe said she would also support a 2-week lockdown for Bimini, and as the number of cases grow on the small island, she's also calling for ramped-up testing. Reporting for our News, I'm Giorgio Bain.
All right, thanks, Giorgio. Coming up in sports, we catch up with a golden girl. Stay tuned.
The Ministry of Education presents the Bahamas Learning Channel on Rev TV Channel 295, starting Wednesday, April 15th, where students across the entire Bahamas will have access to virtual learning for BJC and BGCSE taught daily by our teachers. Tune into the Bahamas Learning Channel, where education is in the click. And stay tuned for the Bahamas Learning Channel 296, launching soon.
And finally, in news tonight, former Golden Girls Savithy Defines relives that historic run in 2000 and what's happened since then. Marcellus Hall reports.
Things that Bahamians find themselves doing when, during this time of quarantine, they're stuck at home, is reflecting back on some of those great memories in sports. Like, where are they now is a good question. Well, we found out exactly where one of our legendary athletes was. Savithy Defines reached out and checked in with the young lady. Here's what she had to say.
You know, coming from where I was coming from Abaco, and then, you know, moving into Nassau and getting the opportunity to, get like a scholarship to go off to college. And then from then on to go professionally, I never thought, I was just taking it one day and one step at a time. So I never thought that, that I would actually accomplish that, but I did.
So in 2000, of course, you guys headed to Sydney, Australia, which, by the way, I'm very proud to say I was one of the people in the stands watching that race. But so you're on the track now, and you guys are putting a lot of work, of course, into the semifinals and getting into the finals. Were you guys thinking, hey, we can actually win the gold medal, or was this something that just as it came together, wow, we're actually going to pull this off?
We were truly thinking that we can win that medal. We were all prepared. We know that we had put in the hard work. It was just a matter of getting that baton around the track. So I think everyone had confidence in each other that we can do it, and we were going to go there and do it.
The track and field career continued a little bit down the road. how long did you continue in track and field, and what are you doing these days?
I think I really retired. I think it was 2006. I had like an injury that just wouldn't go away. Even now, it still plagues me. I don't know, I just can't seem to. It just wouldn't go away. Whatever happened, I don't know if it was overuse or whatever it was, but anyway, it just wouldn't go away. So after 2006, I kind of settled down. Had my first son in 2007. And now I'm coaching. I'm a college coach, and I kind of like it because I can see, a lot of in the athletes what that used to be me, one time ago. So I think that now I can relate a little bit better to the athlete, knowing that I used to be there. So I think I try to encourage them in the way that I would want to be encouraged when I was doing it. So I see it as a plus definitely for me. Something I'm still doing. This is something that I love doing.
What are your thoughts when you see people like Shawnee Miller, Stephen Gardner, and others who are following you guys' footsteps and I guess almost taking it to another level?
I'm happy for them. Always proud, that there are people out there, after us. I want Bahamians to continue pushing forward and achieving their goals. Everybody have goals and reaching out and achieving their goals. So I'm very happy for them.
And our thanks to Sabatino Fines for taking a moment out to have a chat with us. Meanwhile, I'm Marcellus Hall. For our news, the weather is next.
Thank you for joining us for Our News Tonight. On behalf of the entire team, I'm Kyle Joaquin. Remember, you can catch Our News on the Go, the RevGo Play app. Have a good Tuesday evening, Muhammad.